Impeachment inquiry, impeachment palooza. I'm here for it. Remember, the Democrats invented lawfare, right? They're trying to take the leading Republican presidential candidate off the ballot. They're trying to put him in jail with some trumped up BS.
91 counts of made up.
I get it, 91 counts. Let's keep counting the same one over and over and over again. But 91 times 0 is still 0, Dr. Tarloff. You know what? I love this because the Democrats tied up the government during the rise of COVID with impeachment proceedings. God knows how this would have turned out, the disease, if we hadn't been doing that. So turnabout is fair play. I'm here for it.
What are you talking about? I mean, it's clear that he's perfectly happy with these investigations being totally political. Let's be very clear about that. Never forget it. They don't actually think there should be grounds for these sorts of investigations. But what was the thing about COVID? They tied up the government with concerns over impeachment, and who knows what might have happened if they hadn't done that. Trump might have been freed up to do less somehow. You didn't want him to do anything. What's the opportunity cost on you not caring if 1 million Americans die? So that makes no sense to me. He immediately discounts the 91 indictments or whatever because you can multiply a fact that's inconvenient by 0 and it doesn't count. I will remind you all, so far on Joe Biden, they have that he lent money to Hunter for a truck and Hunter paid it back. For Trump, we know what he said to the Ukrainian government. We know the blackmail plot. We know the boxes of documents in one of the guest bathrooms in Mar-a-Lago. We know that a coup literally happened. We know that he called Georgia and told them, I just need you to find the exact number of votes I need to overturn the election. All of these things are not hearsay. All of these things are not speculative. We don't need to set up an expedition to go looking for evidence. All of those things are indisputable. They're unfortunately, for utter hacks, ignorable. You could just pretend that stuff doesn't exist because it's inconvenient to you. Waz, what'd you make of Greg Gutfeld there?
Just a mask off moment, that's all. Saying the quiet part out loud that they're happy with all of these investigations because it scores a political blow, they hope, against Joe Biden, and the evidence or lack thereof be damned. I just love the idea that we would have fixed COVID had the Dems not impeached Donald Trump. That's a new one for me. I actually haven't heard that one.
I don't know. They were angry at anything that was done. Sorry, to be clear, just in case people have started paying attention to politics more recently and weren't actively following everything during the pandemic, I will also remind you, and I'll probably do this for the rest of my career in this thing, that initially they were supportive of efforts, including Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson was telling people to socially distance, to wear masks, all of that. Fox was pretty responsible for a couple of weeks until it became clear that Trump wasn't going to do anything, that their conspiratorial viewers would prefer to imagine that Bill Gates was trying to put microchips into your brain. And then they did an about face and said that we shouldn't do anything. So just a little bit of history, lest we forget. But yeah, I don't know what less Trump could have done. Maybe he would have had time for more press conferences where he talked about injecting bleach and lights into your anus and stuff. I guess he could have done that, I suppose. That would have been something. But anyway, right now we have impeachment palooza. And also, and I will remind everyone, because some people might be thinking, well, what's the difference, right? I mean, you guys are saying they're not going to find anything. So what does it matter if they're doing the investigation? And look, on a substantive level, I think that is right, that inclination to think that. But we already know that a significant number of Americans believe that Joe Biden committed a crime without any evidence. Months of reports on, we're gonna have something, is designed to kick up dust, that like to make it seem as if there's something, and that could sway some people, which shouldn't matter. But in a close election, and we'll talk later in the show about whether this actually is likely to be a close election or not, that could make the difference in some states, Waz. So that is why I am worried about what this smoke screen of corruption, what effect it could end up having on the election.
Yeah, I think what they're banking on is that people who aren't paying the closest attention when they hear a quote unquote impeachment inquiry, like to them, it might mean the exact same thing as Donald Trump actually being impeached and evidence being administered and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, that's not the worst bet in the world. It's a quite cynical one, but it's not the worst bet I've ever heard that, voters who are living their lives and not as locked in on politics as sickos like me and you might hear about this inquiry and be like, oh God, they're all the same. They're all corrupt. They're all doing, nasty backdoor, underhanded deals. And so, yeah, I think it's actually the correct calculation to make on their part.
Yeah, I want to remind everyone, by the way, just because I love when history sort of comes full circle. So they have to do this investigation to try to impeach Joe Biden because the Democrats impeached Trump, and so now it needs to be made equal. And I will remind everyone that the first impeachment effort against Trump was because of his attempt to blackmail the Ukrainian government into investigating Joe Biden. So it really just does have a perfect political symmetry right there.